Hello, everyone. This is Aaron Brooks with Cascade Media, Tech in Motion. Today, I wanted to kick off our career series. So, with this series, my goal is to bring to everyone, interview individuals who are in the IT field and just get a little bit about their hear a little bit about their backstory. So, maybe what got them interested in IT? How did they jump into this wide field of IT? And really learn about what they're doing today. Yeah, with that, so let's go and get started. My first guest kicking it off with me.
Mr. Brooks.
Yeah, 1.0, video 1.0. We have Mr. Anthony Reid. So, Anthony, thank you, sir. I appreciate your time to speak with us today. So, jumping right into it, just tell me a little bit about yourself. Where you're from, maybe where you went to school, the city, and then we'll jump, high school, college, and then we'll go into career, if that makes
Now,
sense.
yeah, that works. That
All right,
works. So,
perfect. Thank you.
you know, Aaron, man, it's a long, winding road, but I think in any good story, there's some ups and some downs. That's just part of the struggle. So, grew up in New York City, born and raised in Queens. Originally went to high school, and this is where it gets interesting. Went to the High School for Health Professions and Human Services. So I wanted to be the idealistic person that changes the world through medicine. Now I'm in tech. Go figure. So, growing up and, going to school in Manhattan, living in Queens, you get the true New York City experience. You see everything, you see everybody, you learn a little bit about a lot, really, really fast. And as I, graduated high school, and it was like, do I really want medicine? I was kind of squeamish around blood. Didn't think about that as a kid. When I was younger, got a little older, I'm like, ooh, kind of squeamish about blood. Is this what I want to do?
Yeah.
But I initially felt I did not want to be in an office. And today I'm in an office. And this is an older gentleman told me, the road you try to avoid is the one. I think what's the quote? The road you try to avoid is the road you're destined to be on, something to that effect.
Yeah.
And this is essentially my life story. So went to school, went to Baruch College, went to, Apex Technical School, different things that, I like working with my hands. I always enjoyed that. So I parlayed that side of it into fixing copy machines, so that's how I got into the tech sphere. I was a copy repair technician from 1999. Man, I'm dating myself, all the way to 2005. So all I did was turn a screwdriver. And over the course of that portion of my career, one of the things that really jumped out at me is I'm going to see these people. It's never for a good reason. When you're a repair technician, you're there because of a problem. You're there for a bad reason.
Yeah.
And I was still able to parlay that into some really positive relationships with customers. And when I was able to do that, one of the sales managers asked me, is a sales mentor of mine today. He asked me, dude, have you ever thought about going into sales? I looked at him like, no, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to be in tech? What? No, you guys get paid. At the time, it was like $18,000 a year base salary.
Yeah.
Getting X amount of dollars an hour, I'm all right, maybe doing what I need to do. Why on earth would I take a pay cut? Not fully understanding that there's a commission structure. The 18,000 is to keep the dust out of your pocket. Your goal is to go out and sell, and that's where you make your money. So over the course of time, him and I, can I tell the story about how I actually crossed over into sales? Okay, so we were working on an account. So if you've ever seen like the bootleg CDs, the jewel case covers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, so one of those accounts, that was my account. I had one of those where they print them off. They wanted to buy a color machine, and this color machine I think was like $70,000, $80,000. So I was going to be the one to spec out the space in terms of power requirements, space requirements, heat, all of these things. So it was myself and the sales manager. And we go to this basically abandoned warehouse on the west side of Manhattan. And these guys show up with a bag of money, like a black plastic grocery bag of money. And the manager has the contract in hand, and it's the classic, 3-sided contract. So press sign hard, and
Oh
everybody
yeah, the
can
press
copy.
paper. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you have these,
Common.
and I just kind of tapped the gentleman, and I'm like, man, this doesn't look right.
Mm-hmm.
Just spider senses, once again, growing up in the city, spider senses. It just looked like a scene out of like New Jack City. For those that it just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
And I said, gents, hold on a second. So I pulled, the rep and the manager to the side. I'm like, look, guys, if they rob us right now for this money and they signed off on this contract, we're holding a bag for $80,000.
Yep.
Nobody saw that. Everybody saw it. So I said, why don't we just go to a bank? I saw a bank like 2 blocks down. Let's just go to a bank, get a cashier's check, and do this transaction in a bank. Doing this wherever the machine gets delivered, fine.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just do this in an open space. This just does not sit right. And the manager's like, man, that's a good point. I didn't think of that. I'm like, you didn't think of this? Kidding me? This is the first thing I thought about. So long story short, we do that. And that's when he comes to me and says, do you want to cross over into sales because of the situation? And we had just gone through a really bad snowstorm, and then we had the blackout. So if anyone remembers that's hearing this, that early 2004 New York City East Coast blackout that happened, I was a technician in the field for that. I was a technician in the field when we had these East Coast snowstorms, and it just got to a point where it was like, do I really want to continue to go see people for a negative reason? I'm out braving the elements. Is there a better or different way? And that's what prompted me to go into sales. And that was 2005. And that was 16 years ago. Gosh, when I hear these numbers and dates, it's like, man, that happened. Yeah. So 16 years ago, this happened. And I haven't looked back since. And from there, it was just a lot of hard work, a lot of bumps, a lot of failures. But that same sales manager that I began to work with, he's now a mentor of mine. And anyone listening to this, I will say, make sure you have some mentors in your life. You can always bounce things off of, be willing to disagree, but also be prepared to bring something to the table. That's one of my biggest things. Have a mentor, but also be prepared. Do your research too. So if Aaron is my mentor and, I ask Aaron, what do you think about this? This is what I saw. Now we can talk about the conference. There's substance to the conversation. I'm just not picking your brain. My mom used to say to me as a kid, aren't you tired of using my brain? So you got to bring stuff to the table. And that's what I would, say to anyone. So this sales mentor, I jumped on board with him, and wherever he went, I went. Loyal soldier. Whatever, we went to various copier companies together, had some successes, really nice successes, had some losses, had some battles. That is what gave me the love of the competition of sales. Now, remember at the outset, I said to myself, I didn't want to be in an office.
Right.
So the road you try to avoid is one you'll be destined to be on. You're destined to take. So all of that, I don't want to be inside, don't want to sit at a desk, don't want to sit at a desk, don't want to sit at a desk. The majority of my career, I've been at a desk. Even though I tried to do everything I could to avoid being at a desk. But I leaned into the fact of the competition, the learning. One thing about tech and, being Black and in tech, there is, how can I put this? There's a certain honor in it, for lack of a better phrase. Because when you look in a room and you see all of these people who don't look like me, but we're all in the same room together. We're all in the same room succeeding. Sometimes I'm better than you for this quarter. Sometimes you're a little better than me. We're all in the game. And I sit back and reminding myself, man, you're the kid from the hood. You didn't have the opportunities or, whatever that was, but I'm in the same room with you. So if you went to the Ivy League school, I'm in the same room with you. I'm competing with you. What does it say about the mother with education? And I'll tell anyone, any young person that's hearing this, that sees this, don't ever worry about what other people bring to the table. You worry about what you bring to the table, because that's the ticket you need. And then when you get there, show up and show out when you get there. And you do the best you can for you. You can't do the best you can for them. You do the best you can for you. So that's just, my PSA about that.
Yeah, man, love the jewels. So you're in sales, IT
Yep.
sales.
Mm-hmm.
And so it sounded like, you started off in hardware sales,
Mm-hmm.
or we'll call it hardware sales, right?
Yep.
Because IT has grown so much, some may think, well, if I'm going to IT sales, all I'm selling is computers or laptops or something,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
All of this stuff has an air of IT to it these days.
Yep.
So let me ask you this: from a sales standpoint, what do you think it takes to be a good salesperson? What skill sets, what type of personality do you feel makes a great or a successful salesperson?
The best people I've ever run across weren't selling anything.
Ah,
Best people I ran across were never selling anything. They were open to having a conversation. And if
okay.
you can talk to people and you can level with people and you can really empathize or really hear out what they're feeling, what they're thinking, what's in it for them, and try to craft something to support that person's needs, that makes you a good salesperson. Because
Kind of
this
goes
is
to
not,
that saying of, people buy the person, not necessarily the product.
that's true. And that's
Mhm.
very true.
Yeah.
And what you run into, prime example of this is anyone that's hearing this, the people you bought things from, you treated them, what do the young people call it? The plug, you know,
Yeah.
call it the plug. What about that plug is so important? What relationship did you build with this plug?
Yeah.
You build a relationship with this person outside of, they have a product, you have a demand, and you meet in the middle. It's more of, man, that guy's cool. Why do you go to the same barber all of the time? Why do you eat at these specific restaurants? Because there's an interpersonal relationship that's been built. It's
Yeah.
the running joke of the person with the open barber chair. You don't go sit in this chair. Where's his clients? You will wait for your person,
Mhm.
and if you build those relationships, that's what makes a good salesperson, because the customer is going to now level with you and you're going to level with the customer.
Yeah.
And now
All
you'll
right.
always have that relationship.
So communication, relationship building. Do you have to be good with numbers?
You'll eventually, yes, you do
Do
have
I
to be
need
good with
calculus,
numbers.
or am I good with basic arithmetic?
You can get away. It's funny, you can get away. I was a terrible math student growing up, horrible math student. So if anyone hears this and knows me from high school and hears this, they will absolutely co-sign. I was a terrible math student. I learned the math on the way. I learned it on the fly. I
Okay.
learned, if someone asked me right now, how much is it for a black and white page, CPC 0.0129, penny 29 for a black and white print, zero point
Mhm.
0.08 for a color print. That just sat in my mind forever. It's now muscle memory. Haven't been around a copier in over a dozen years, but that's in my brain.
Yeah.
Um, a lease rate, 0.02 is 60 months, 0.03 is 36 months, stuff that just sticks. So in terms of being a math student, you work the math. Yes, you need to know your numbers, but you need to know the numbers for you. You need to
Mhm.
know the numbers as to what's it going to take to get me to X goal and work backward.
All
If
right.
I need to, if my quota, for example, is $100,000 a month, we'll just use round numbers. How many calls is it going to take me to get to 100,000? How many deals is it going to take me to get to $100,000? And you work backward.
Hmm. Makes sense.
And then when you start to work backward, you're like, okay, it's 100,000. If I can get 10 deals of $10,000, okay, that's 10 deals. Now it takes me 20 calls to get to one deal, which is $10,000 to get these 10 deals. How many calls does it take to get me to get there?
Yeah.
So now you've already figured out your entire day based on, in order to get to these 10 deals, which get me to $100,000 at $10,000 a deal, I need to make X amount of calls every single day.
That's it. Then you just got to do it.
And now you have to be disciplined enough to do it. And there are times when you don't feel like being bothered. That's just real.
Yeah.
There are times where, you're down, and this is one of the things about sales, like I said, about life, it's winding road. There are going to be those days you don't really want to get up. You want to hit the reset button. But you have to keep in mind, I'm competing, am I working hard or am I competing? The Duke women's basketball coach, she's got a great quote and a great video about, Kara Lawson is her name, if anyone wants to look it up. Am I working hard or am I competing? And she points out that I can make you work hard. I can just put a specific load on you for a specific amount of time and make you work hard. But are you competing? And the difference is, if I told you to run suicides back and forth down from, baseline to baseline, you do it, that's hard work. But if I put 2 or 3 of your teammates alongside of you, are you going to run any differently because you have 2, 3 teammates running alongside you? That's competition.
Yeah.
So, keep in mind that you are always running against you. And you don't negotiate, and be not willing to negotiate with yourself. We as human beings are comfortable doing that. Man, I don't want to get up today. All right, I'll get up in 20 minutes, and all right, I'll make it up by staying a little later. And we negotiate with ourselves throughout the day as to what we'll do, and I'll make it up here, and I'll steal a couple of minutes there, and don't negotiate with yourself. So if X amount of calls is the mission and that's the goal to get to this number, do everything you can to get to that, and then reward yourself for getting there afterward.
Yeah.
I tell anyone I'm working with, sales development reps, early stage sales reps, that you reward yourself when you hit your goals. You don't reward yourself before you hit your goals.
Yep. Hey, I got that call finally. I made 50 calls and I finally got one. Time to go celebrate. You're saying no?
No, go get another one.
Yeah.
Go get another one.
Right.
Prime example, when I first started in sales, we didn't have the breakout of, the sales development rep and the account executive. We had to be our own sales development reps. We had to do our 300 calls in a week.
Okay.
In addition to your own prospecting, your own closing, your own research, and knocking on people's doors and getting thrown out of stuff. We had to do that in addition to the 300 calls in a week. Now we don't, we're required to do 20 calls, and it's, oh my God, so much work. 300 in a week. And you break that down, here's the math, that's 60 calls a day, 5 days a week.
Right.
You work 8-9 hours a day. Can you do 10 calls in an hour?
Oh, absolutely.
Most people, half of those 10 in that hour are going to be voicemail. But here's where you reward yourself. Every hour, do a block of 10 an hour. If you finish in 25 minutes, go get a drink at, when we were in the office, go upstairs and go grab a drink, make yourself some lunch, take a walk, just look outside, fresh air.
Yeah.
Do something to reward that, man, I hit this goal. And then be right back to it for hour number 2. And then you reward yourself again. So now you're working hard to see you want to reap the reward after you hit the goal. And by the time you're done, 60 calls in an 8-hour day, you've got an extra 2.5 hours to kill to do any other thing you want to do. If you want to get started on the next set of calls, great. Reward yourself after, because it'll be a constant. You're now seeking something new. It's the new challenge, the new thing to overcome. And when you get into that space, there's no feeling like that when you can reward yourself and you see the fruitage of your hard work, and
absolutely.
That's one thing I tell any new salesperson getting on: be willing to put in the work. Don't negotiate with yourself, and reward yourself when you hit your milestones.
Man,
Reward
Perfect.
yourself.
A lot of great information, man. I'm getting more than I expected. I'm loving it, man.
Listen, man. My sales mentor told me, he said, I came by this information. Someone took the time with me. I'm gonna take the time with you. The way you pay that back and you pay that forward is you be willing to take the time with anyone else. And this is how we all build in the community, in terms of,
Facts.
how do we share these the mother with, as my mom would call it. So my granddad, a little story about him. I also got selling from him in the personality aspect. So he's from South Carolina. So he was born 1913. So this is before the Depression. There was still segregation, Jim Crow, all of those things were going on in South Carolina. So he left to go be a hobo because there was no food by the time the Depression rolled around. So they would try to get themselves arrested, as the story I was told, try to get themselves arrested on the train. They'd ride the trains, come into town, get arrested because you have to get 3 square meals. They have to feed you when you go to jail. So that's why the plan was, man, we going to jail because we're going to get something to eat. And first they roll into town on the train and no, y'all can't stay here. We ain't got no food. Got to keep going. And what he ended up doing, he learned the value of relationships then. Because he would just walk into, restaurant in the South and just start sweeping. Start working.
Right.
When they wash dishes. So granted, this is a completely different era than today. And then the people would then, when you're done, boy, go on and get a plate back there. Get you some food back there.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a big believer in, if you don't work, you don't eat. So his relationships, he built relationships that he can go wherever he wanted, these different places in the South and, in the areas, and he'd always have a plate. He'd always have a place to lay his head.
Yeah.
And he said, as long as you do right by people and you put in the work, and you'll always have a place to eat and a place to lay your head. It's the same thing in sales. If you do right by people, you put the work in and you do it for them. If they're in the fire, you got to be in the fire with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you do that, people will see that, and you'll always have something to eat, potential deal opportunity, place to lay your head. When things are kind of tight and you need something done, and I need a quick little PO here, they'll be willing to look out for you. Yeah, I got a little something, I can push it forward for you. That's how you build those relationships. But you have to be willing to put the work in. Put the work in by not negotiating with yourself. Man, I don't feel like calling this customer. My sales mentor said he only had 3 rules for his entire team. Don't lie to me. What we say in the confines of our team stays between us. And the third and most important rule is call your customers. Those are the 3 rules he had. Any sales team. He said, I don't care what you do. So if it's the Super Bowl Monday and you are feeling it, call me and tell me that's it. Don't give me nothing else. Just call me and tell me, hey man, I had too much fun at the fair Sunday night Super Bowl. And he'd work out, okay, this is what I need you to do. When you get right, I'm gonna need you to go and hit this prospecting and go see these 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
And now you go do it. And this is where you don't negotiate, because now someone has given you a place to lay it. And you're benefiting, because someone's going to say, man, that dude is up working Monday at the Super Bowl. I don't feel like working. This guy, yeah, man, he may have something to say. And this is that cyclical, how you build the relationships, how you build the trust, all of those things go in that big gumbo pot of what makes, to your original question, a good salesperson. So we've been all over the place, but that's why I was saying sales life, it's one big gumbo pot and it's a winding road. It's never going to be
a
pointed.
lot of the things you said is life jewels, so life, career, relationships, all those things, like you mentioned, intertwine with each other. So going a little long here, so let's start to bring it home. So what else are you into? What you are obviously in sales today. Any other business ventures that you're exploring or dabble in, as they say?
Couple of other business ventures. I'm looking to start aging moonshine is one that I've done. I picked that up during the pandemic. I'm a big bourbon drinker now. So a buddy of mine who lives across the street has a pot still in his backyard. I never understood why. It's like you can go to the liquor store.
Yeah.
Why do I need a pot still? Neither here nor there. So we started aging the moonshine that comes out of the still. And then just little tastings and see if it can gain some traction to see where that goes. Potentially figure out if this is a venture we can get into. So that's one business venture I'm looking at.
All right.
I'm a big sneakerhead back in the day. To an extent, not as much now because I got other responsibilities.
Right.
Just being the man who knows the man that can get something for the man. So just kind of putting those two people together, a person that has demand, person that has product. Hey, you need to call this person, you're going to get a call from that person. You guys work out a deal. Let me know for the finder's fee what the middleman is. So it's a small little thing that I tend to do, from folk from time to time. So I have that. As a regular person, I'm a massive sports fan, so I'm willing to debate any sports topic within reason. I don't take it all personal. It's sports. These are those people over there. But I do enjoy how we as humans have real strong ties to this stuff. We really do as sports fans. We have real strong ties to it. So I like to, find that out. And also, one thing I'll also say to any professional, pick up a book, be a book reader, be a sponge about that. Be it self-development books, books about what's going on in society today around us, the changes in society. Those things really help when you're sitting across the table from someone and you now know where the conversation can lead and how to steer it in such a way that the goal is, and Sandler method talks about this. I want to get you through the funnel or out of the funnel as quickly as possible. How do we do that? Those are the two goals: get you through the funnel or out. So I'm not wasting your time and you're not wasting my time. So this is something that you start to learn when you get busy with multiple projects and things, your passions and the things you love and your responsibilities. You got to get things either through the funnel or out of the funnel as quickly as possible. And that is one of those goals that, you start to, so the books, something that's, I try to pick up a good book, and have at least between 1 to 2 books a month that I try to get through. So I'm behind right now on my, second book, but not negotiating with myself. Like I said earlier, I got to pick up the pace on this book.
Right. Would you mind sharing with the audience what you're currently reading?
So first book I read is, I'm rereading it now. It's Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. By Emmanuel Acho. It's a really, really good book. And it's an interesting take because it's coming from someone who doesn't share the African American experience. So for lack of a better phrase, the Black American experience, because his parents and his family are from Nigeria and they came to America with certain level of means. Mm-hmm. So his experiences are different. So he's also learning about the American experience. He's a former NFL player, former college player. So he's seen what some of his teammates have gone through. So he's looking at this from an empathetic outsider, insider perspective. It's a really, really good read. And I'm started to read Michael Eric Dyson's last book as well, his newest book, About a Reckoning. So those are 2 books I'm getting through now. My favorite book, I will say, was a book by 2 former Navy SEALs. It's a really good. Well, no, I'm lying. That's not true. Ryan Holiday has a book series. It's 3 books that are really, really good. It's Obstacle is the Way, Ego is the Enemy, and the 3rd book is Stillness is the Key. Are the three book titles. So Obstacle is the Way talks about we as humans tend to shy away from challenge, where he talks about leaning into those challenges because that's where the lessons are. Zig Ziglar says there's no success, there's no elevated success. You have to take the stairs.
Yeah.
And you feel the burn when you take the stairs.
Absolutely.
So leaning into those obstacles, those are where all the good lessons are. And then when you have success with those, the second book talks about ego is the enemy. And there's a difference between self-esteem and ego. One is fragile and one is strong. And digs into that. So that's the second book. And the third book is stillness is the key. And being still doesn't mean being inactive. Being still means that's where the assessment, that's where the study, that's where the planning, the strategizing, that stillness is where the work happens.
Okay.
And then you can start to make your moves. But if you're never still, when are you planning? When are you strategizing? When are you studying? When are you doing any of those things? Because you're always bouncing from thing to thing to thing. Whereas the stillness is where those lessons are. So that's probably my favorite book series.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna get on that. What was that author's name again?
Ryan Holiday.
I had to write that one down. That's right up my alley right there, man.
It's really good book series. And then my second favorite book series is probably Jocko Willnick's book. He's got two of them about extreme ownership. And the second book is The Dichotomy of Leadership. And the book series is centered around how the Navy SEALs, take ownership of each of their specific responsibilities. And the extreme, going back to not negotiating with yourself, this is where this comes from. Extreme ownership of, all right, we've got to move from here to here. And everybody's got to do their job to the fullest, because other people's lives on my team are on the line.
Yeah.
And then the second in the book series is really interesting, is The Dichotomy of Leadership, which talks about everyone's taken all this ownership and all of these things have gone, and you don't get the outcome you want. Now what? To now, and this goes back to, you want an opportunity. And this, we talked about this at the outset about sitting in the room with certain folks and folks that don't look like us. You want the opportunity, doesn't guarantee you an outcome. And now, how do you manage that not getting the outcome you want? And this is the dichotomy of leadership. Was it you? Was it them? Was the plan suspect? Was the plan solid? You didn't have the right members of the team to enact the plan and execute the plan? Yeah. Or was it just not your day? It just wasn't your day. This wasn't your day today, and everybody did their job perfectly, and it just wasn't for you. How do you manage those emotions? So those are some of the, that's a good book series as well. So,
all right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to hit that up, man. So just being conscious of time, and added close to 40 minutes, if you can believe it.
Man, we're having a good time. We're having a good time.
Yeah, man, you kicked this series off nice. I think it's going to be a lot of competition and hard work to beat this one out.
Man, I'm excited to see where this goes, and support it, so I'm just putting it out there. I'd love to come back and do this and talk about some other crazy topics and some other things down the line. So you stuck with me, Aaron.
Hey, man, I love it. I love it. So real quick before we get out of here, where can, or should I say, how can people get a hold of you, your social media handles? Say they want to reach out and get with you on the moonshine or ask you to be their sales mentor.
I'm not really on social media, but I am on Twitter. That's really the only social media I have. And my Twitter handle is Kicks Game Proper.
Okay.
Is just as a sneakerhead, that's what it is. So Kicks Game Proper is, all one word. Find me on Twitter. I'm telling you now, I'm just putting a disclaimer in. I say all types of stuff on Twitter. So if you are offended, just know I'm sorry, not sorry.
It's not personal, not my business,
That's it. But if you ever, you want to reach out to me, or if via email, you can shoot me an email, careid007@gmail.com. You can always shoot me an email as well. And we can chat offline and we figure out, what are the goals? One of the things that when you teach other people, it sharpens you.
Absolutely.
Because you got to now, be on point with certain things. So I don't mind it, but, reach out, let's chat, let's learn. I'm willing to learn too. So my only thing with anyone that wants to be mentored or wants to sit and chat, just know I'm coming to you asking questions. So I'm going to be as prepared as you're going to be.
Now, on that, man, we'll leave it.
Yeah, I'll
Anthony,
be prepared.
again, thank you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This is another episode of Tech in Motion with Cascade Media Group. See you soon.
Take care.
Program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.